When everything seems to collapse, economies crashing, wars tearing communities apart, it's easy to feel hopeless. The noise of uncertainty, the weight of fear, and the pressure of survival can suffocate the mind. Yet, in the darkest moments, there exists a philosophy designed to guide us through: Stoicism. It doesn't promise an easy escape, but offers a framework to build unshakable resilience, even when the world spirals out of control. Through Stoicism, we don't avoid hardship. We embrace it, grow from it, and emerge more resilient. Today, we explore how this ancient philosophy can help us survive the storms of recession and war. So start with our first lesson, which is seeing chaos as a forge, not a fire. The stock market collapses, a war starts, and you stand at the center of it all. It feels like the world is burning, consuming everything in its path. Most people see this as destruction, an end, but here's the unexpected twist. Fire can destroy, or it can forge. In Stoic terms, when chaos strikes, it doesn't have to burn you down. It can be the heat that strengthens you. Imagine a blacksmith. The same fire that melts metal can also harden it into something stronger, more resilient. Now, imagine yourself in that fire, not as a victim, but as metal being refined. Every layoff, every bit of bad news, every sleepless night is an opportunity to reshape yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." The obstacle isn't there to block you. It's there to shape you. This doesn't mean pretending things are fine when they aren't. Instead, it means acknowledging the pain and using it to build mental resilience. Think of someone standing at the brink of financial ruin. They've lost everything they thought they needed: comfort, security, stability. But what they gain is far more valuable: the strength to endure. They discover they are capable of more than they ever knew, precisely because the chaos forced them to be. Instead of fearing the fire, Stoicism teaches us to step into it willingly, knowing that with each burn, we are being made stronger. The world may throw us into the flames, but it's our choice whether we emerge as ashes or steel. Second, redefining wealth in times of scarcity. In a recession, it's easy to see wealth as money. When the economy tanks, our first reaction is to panic over dwindling savings or a shrinking paycheck. But what if wealth isn't just about currency? What if, in times of scarcity, we're measuring it all wrong? Imagine a person who's lost their job. They're staring at their empty bank account, feeling worthless because society equates success with financial stability. Stoicism flips this script. Seneca once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The Stoics' wealth isn't tied to the stock market or their bank balance. It's tied to their ability to need less. Picture this. The things we truly need are far fewer than what we've been conditioned to believe. When a recession strikes, we're forced to confront this reality. The car, the latest gadgets, the luxury vacations. None of that was ever true wealth. Real wealth is the ability to strip away the excess and still thrive. Consider the story of someone who, in the middle of financial crisis, decides to downsize their life. They sell the unnecessary possessions, move into a smaller home, and simplify their daily routine. While others spiral into despair over what they've lost, this person discovers something powerful: freedom. The less they own, the less they are owned by their possessions. In times of scarcity, true wealth is revealed not by what we accumulate, but by what we can live without. And in this new definition of wealth, there is immense strength. The recession no longer holds power over us when we no longer define ourselves by what we own. Third, turning fear into focus. Picture yourself lying awake, gripped by the fear of what tomorrow might bring. The economy is in free fall, or there's talk of war on the horizon. Fear has a way of paralyzing us, making us feel powerless. But here's the twist. What if fear wasn't something to be eliminated, but sharpened into focus? In the Stoic tradition, fear isn't an enemy, it's a tool. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine using fear as a compass. Instead of letting it consume you, let it guide you toward what matters most. Picture someone standing in the rubble of their life. They're afraid, but instead of freezing, they ask themselves, "What can I do now?" fear no longer becomes something to escape. It becomes a sharp edge, pointing out the most urgent task. In a war zone, fear tells a soldier to move quickly, to stay alert. In a recession, fear tells a person to cut unnecessary expenses, to pivot their career, to adapt. It becomes not a hindrance, but a motivator. Think of a family during a recession. The parents are scared of losing everything, but instead of being paralyzed, they channel that fear into action. They rework their budget, learn new skills, and find ways to thrive on less. Fear isn't eliminated, it's redirected. The Stoic lesson here is that fear will always be present, especially in times of crisis. But we have a choice: allow it to control us or use it to focus on what we can control. In doing so, fear transforms from a source of anxiety into a source of power. Fourth, turning loss into liberation. One day, everything you know vanishes. Your job, your savings, your sense of normalcy, all gone in the blink of an eye. Most would consider this a nightmare. But what if loss, in Stoic terms, wasn't something to be feared, but something that could set you free? Imagine someone who's just lost their business in a recession. The first instinct is devastation. Years of work, effort, and dreams, all gone. But here's the Stoic twist. What if, in losing everything, they gain something far more important? Epictetus reminds us, "He who is not a slave to wealth has freed himself from its loss." What if the loss was, in fact, liberation? Consider a life lived chasing after material wealth and security. The endless grind, the constant pressure to earn more, be more, own more. Now, imagine the moment it all disappears. Yes, there is fear and grief. But beyond that, there is a strange kind of freedom. When there is nothing left to lose, what is left to fear? Picture someone who loses their home in a war. At first, they are shattered, feeling like everything they loved has been ripped away. But as time passes, they realize something profound. The loss has stripped away not just their possessions, but their fear of losing them. What remains is a life built on inner strength, on resilience, on things that cannot be destroyed by war or economic collapse. Loss is painful, but Stoicism teaches us that it can also be liberating. When everything external is taken from us, we are left with our most essential self, the part of us that can't be touched by external forces. And in that, we find true freedom. Fifth, inviting uncertainty to the table. There's a knock at the door. It's uncertainty, and it's here to stay. In recessions and warlike situations, uncertainty is the only constant. But rather than seeing it as a threat, Stoicism suggests we invite it in, sit it down at our table, and make peace with it. Most people hate uncertainty. It's unsettling not to know what's coming next. But what if the uncertainty wasn't something to fight, but something to welcome? The Stoics remind us that the future is beyond our control, but our acceptance of it is not. Instead of wrestling with the unknown, we can learn to coexist with it. Imagine a family facing a future they cannot predict. Jobs may come and go, the political situation may worsen, and yet they make the conscious choice to embrace the unknown. They do not pretend to know what tomorrow will bring, but they are prepared to adapt to whatever it does. Epictetus said, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." The uncertainty itself is not the problem. It's our resistance to it. Consider a soldier in a conflict zone. Every day brings new dangers, new threats. But instead of being crippled by the unknown, the soldier learns to live with it, making decisions moment by moment, adjusting as needed. They don't fight uncertainty, they flow with it. In times of crisis, we have two choices: resist the unknown and suffer, or embrace it and adapt. By inviting uncertainty to sit with us, we remove its power to intimidate. And once we make peace with the unknown, we become adaptable, resilient, and ready for whatever comes next. Sixth, embracing the power of preparation. Imagine standing at the edge of a battlefield or staring down a looming recession. The future is unclear. The odds feel overwhelming, and uncertainty grips your heart. But what if the key to surviving wasn't waiting for disaster to strike, but preparing for it long before it arrives? In Stoicism, preparation is everything. Seneca famously said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." The Stoic doesn't wait for the storm to pass. They prepare their shelter, mentally and physically, before it even hits. By practicing hardship in times of peace, they are not caught off guard when chaos descends. Consider someone who has spent years saving modestly, cutting unnecessary expenses, and learning how to live with less. When a recession hits, they don't panic. They've trained for this moment. It's not that they don't feel fear or anxiety, but their preparations have given them a shield against the worst of it. Now picture a soldier preparing for battle. Long before the war begins, they train rigorously, honing their skills, learning how to adapt under pressure. When they're finally thrust into the heat of combat, it's not the fear that guides them, it's their preparation. Their training takes over, their mind sharpens, and they focus on the task at hand, knowing they've been preparing for this very moment. In both war and economic crises, the Stoic believes that by embracing discomfort before it's necessary, we build resilience. If you train for the worst-case scenario while things are still relatively calm, you're not caught off guard when the world erupts into chaos. Preparation is an invisible armor, something we can control when everything else feels out of our hands. And in that preparation, we find the strength to face the unknown. Seventh, practicing detachment without losing humanity. In times of war and economic collapse, it's easy to feel emotionally overwhelmed by the suffering around you. Friends lose their jobs, communities are torn apart by violence, and loved ones face immense challenges. As a Stoic, how do you navigate these emotions without shutting down? The answer lies in the practice of detachment, not from people, but from outcomes. Imagine a person who is deeply connected to their community, but they've learned to accept that they cannot control everything. Their loved ones may suffer, their business may fail, but they do not allow these external events to crush their spirit. Detachment in Stoicism is not indifference, it's emotional resilience. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The Stoic understands that while they cannot prevent war, recession, or the suffering of others, they can control their response. This doesn't mean becoming cold or detached from humanity, but rather, recognizing that some things are simply beyond our control. Picture someone who lives in a war-torn region. They've lost family members, their home has been destroyed, and yet they manage to maintain a calm, composed demeanor. How? Not by ignoring the pain, but by detaching from the need to control everything. They focus on what they can do, helping those nearby, offering support where possible, while accepting that not everything can be fixed. Detachment isn't about shutting off emotions. It's about not letting the uncontrollable events of the world break your inner peace. The Stoic doesn't shut down in times of crisis. They remain fully engaged, but they do so without letting external turmoil dictate their inner state. In detachment, we don't lose our humanity, we preserve it. Eighth, building inner citadel, a fortress no one can break. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. Winds tear at your clothes, debris flies through the air, and chaos surrounds you. Yet, at your core, you remain unmoved. This is the Stoic's ultimate teaching, building an inner citadel, a mental fortress no external force can penetrate. The world outside is unpredictable. Recessions hit, wars break out, lives change in an instant. But Stoicism offers a radical idea. We can create an inner space, a stronghold within ourselves that no external disaster can touch. Marcus Aurelius described this in Meditations when he spoke of retreating into yourself. Consider someone whose life has been turned upside down by a global economic collapse. Their savings are gone. They've been forced to relocate, and yet, inside, they remain unshaken. They've spent years building a mental fortress, practicing Stoic principles, and strengthening their mind against external chaos. The economy can collapse, wars can rage, but their inner citadel stands firm. This isn't just about emotional numbness. It's about cultivating a place of peace within yourself that no outside force can break. Imagine an individual who meditates on their values, who practices resilience daily, not just when times are hard, but when things are calm. When crisis strikes, they don't crumble. They retreat into their inner citadel, a place built on the foundations of Stoic thought, courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. In this mental fortress, external events lose their power to destroy. The Stoic knows that true strength doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from mastering oneself. And once you've built this inner citadel, no recession, no war, no disaster can tear it down. This is the ultimate Stoic lesson. The greatest fortress is the one you build within yourself, a fortress that no one else can touch. In a world filled with uncertainty, be it economic collapse or the chaos of war, resilience isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. Stoicism offers the blueprint to thrive amidst the storm, turning hardship into opportunity and fear into strength. The true battle isn't outside, it's within. And once you master your inner fortress, no crisis can break you. Remember, every challenge you face now is a step toward becoming unshakable. If you found strength in this video, you'll find even more in the next. So, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and explore the lessons waiting for you in our other videos on the screen.